Hey guys, Justin Michael, and I have a couple of decks I want to show you. First is the Raziel Tarot, which is the Rachel Pollack and Robert M. Place deck. And it was a collaboration with the two of them. Robert M. Place was the artist, and Rachel was like sort of the architect of the deck. And I had a little trouble getting this initially because the time I decided to get it was like the worst timing in the world. It was just going out of print. So, basically when I went to order it, there weren't any left on Amazon. So I went on Robert M. Place's website, and he had 8 left, and he was charging $100 a deck. And it's a majors only deck, plus 2 extras. So, rather than paying his price, luckily I found it on the Tarot Garden for $40 each. And I actually purchased 3 decks. Because I knew they would become scarce, and just in case anybody I knew wanted to get the deck, I would get it for them. So if anybody's looking for this deck and you're having trouble, let me know. Maybe we can work something out, make a trade, or I'll sell them to you at cost. But so basically, the concept of the deck is that it's, Rachel wanted to create a Jewish tarot deck. And, you might think, well, that already exists with the Kabbalistic decks, but in her books, in this book, Rachel Pollack says that she didn't even know what Kabbalah was until she discovered tarot, and she grew up in like a conservative Jewish home where they kept kosher and everything like that. So it's an interesting deck, and it's a nice size box. It's got the magnets on the side of it, and I'm going to show you the cards in just a minute. And then there's another deck that I'm going to show you too, which I saw recently on Papa Squirrel's channel, and it's called Saints and Mystics. So I'm going to share some thoughts on that, and I'm going to show you those cards as well. So let's turn the camera around, and we're going to look at the cards. Alright guys, so as I said, this is going out of print, and it's pretty expensive on Robert M. Place's website if he still has any left. But, and nice box. It has these really cool Hebrew letters, and it has a nice chunky book which is all Rachel, and she explains the concept of the deck and the whole history. And it's pretty interesting, but the deck itself is gilded and has these really cool backs with like the Hebrew letters and just some really cool symbolism. So I'm going to show you, well, let's first look at the book. So the book is basically, it has a whole introduction about why she created this deck, based on Jewish ideas and stories. She always wanted to create this deck. And so then you come to the Book of Secrets, and the Book of Secrets is basically it's an idea that in the Garden of Eden, the angel Raziel handed Adam and Eve this Book of Secrets that contained all this information, and she goes into Judaism and divination, which is kind of cool. And the other deck I'm going to show you is also mentions Catholicism and divination. So it's kind of pretty cool. It's not a tarot deck, but I thought I would show them both because they're sort of like representations of Jewish or Christian mysticism. I don't know. It just kind of worked out that way. But I got both decks at the same time. And so one thing that you will see with Rachel Pollack is that she will break up the Major Arcana into 3 groups of 7 cards. And so, you have Magician, Strength, Devil, High Priestess, Hermit, Tower, and then they're all related. And she's not the only one who's ever done that. I've read several books where people break them up like that, and it is useful, so that's a common theme. And then there's a bit about the Hebrew alphabet and the Sephiroth, the Tree of Life. And so then it goes into the Fool. So let's take a look at the Fool. Okay, so in the first card we have Joseph, who is the Joseph from Genesis, and the idea is that the Book of Secrets sort of died with him, and he's like the it's known in Jewish tradition that he was the last person to possess the Book of Secrets, and it possibly was buried with him. This is King Solomon, who built the temple. And he's our magician. And so an idea that you will hear a lot in Raziel Pollack's books is the Shekinah, or the Shekinah. And it's the female aspect of God. And actually A.E. Waite also talks about this in his book. And so it's a very common theme that you will hear. And it's the female aspect of God that dwelled in King Solomon's temple until it was destroyed in 60 AD or whatever it was. And the idea is, for the deck is you have like sort of like the journey. So this is the separation of sort of begins to separate. Well, actually, I believe the tower begins the separation, but and then card 21 will be the world, which is the reunification. It's kind of tricky, and you have to read about this, but it's all very interesting. And this is I believe Miriam, Miriam, which is the sister of Moses, and so she's the empress, and then you have Moses as the emperor. Oh, get out of there, you. What are you doing, Dad? I have a visitor. And then we have, let's see, the high priest. So this high priest is actually, it's the family of Moses. So this is his brother Aaron, who literally became the high priest of the people of Israel. His descendants continued that role until the role itself ended with the destruction of the temple. The priests known as Kohanim still exist, and any Jewish man named Cohen is supposedly part of that group. So that's very interesting. And then here we have the Lover's card. This is the Garden of Eden, and that's the angel Raziel passing the Book of Secrets to Adam and Eve. We have the Chariot. And so basically this strange and beautiful picture strays far from the standard version of the Chariot card. And yet for any deck that draws from Jewish lore and mysticism, there really is no other possibility for this than the Merkava, the divine chariot revealed to the prophet Ezekiel. So, Ezekiel basically was carried off to heaven in a chariot, and that's what they're getting at here. And this is our strength card. And let's see what this is. Oh, she's being bad tonight. So this is the Queen of Sheba, and this is a pretty complex deck, so I have to kind of. So the Hermit is, I believe, Moses at the burning bush. So before the burning bush, as he hears for the first time the voice of Yod He Vav He, which is the Hebrew word for God's name. So, and then we have the Wheel of Fortune. Striking image shows the breastplate of Aaron, the high priest. Card 11 is Justice, and the reason that it's card 11 and not card 8 is because justice is like sort of the center of Jewish belief system. So it has exactly 10 cards before it and 10 cards after it. So that's the idea, to put justice in card 11 instead of card 8. And let's see what's... So in the Raziel Tarot, as in the Wade Smith Justice card, it's 11, the pivotal midpoint of the major arcana, for if we set aside the unnumbered Fool, as well as the 2 extra trumps, the Tree of Knowledge and the Tree of Life, there are 10 cards before justice and 10 cards after it. It is fitting then that in the quotation above, the word justice, tzedek, in Hebrew appears twice. A repeated word occurs very rarely in the Torah. People have interpreted this repetition in various ways, the simplest being just for emphasis. Some say we must pursue justice, but in a just way. The end does not justify the means. So, it looks like the same figure, the Shekinah, you know, or the Shekinah. Shekinah. And, we have the Hanged Man. So I'm just going to read what Rachel has here. The striking image comes from a story I read years ago in Howard Schwartz's book, Tree of Souls, Jewish Mythology, the account of fallen angel Shemahaze. Fascinated me. So, yeah, it's a complex deck, and you'll have to read all about her different, you know, characters, and she does it in a very brilliant way, like she always does. So I'm just going to flip through the rest of the cards to just show you. Temperance. You have the Devil. This is the Tower, and this is the destruction of the temple, King Solomon's temple. And here's the Star, the Moon, Sun. And these are all going to be like very famous stories from the Bible. Judgment. And then here we have card 21, the reunification of the female and male aspect of God, which is like the Anima Mundi, or you know, some people say it's individuation from Carl Jung. And then you have card 23 is the Tree of Life, and then you have the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil, which is basically like opposites, you know, it's like good card, bad card kind of thing. You'll have to read about that. She has some spreads in here and a bunch of other stuff, but I thought this is a really cool deck, and being a fan of hers, the cardstock is typical Robert M. Place cardstock, but it does have this nice gilding, so I'm very happy about this deck. I'm glad I got it, and if any of you have any trouble getting it, just let me know, because I do have some extra copies. And if you're a Rachel Pollack fan, I think this is a must. And it'll also be a nice collector's piece too, because it is currently either out of print or very soon to be going out of print. They have stopped printing them already. This is the Saints and Mystics deck, and I saw this on Papa Squirrel's channel, so I'm just going to flip through it quickly. It comes in this nice box, and has a book here, and the cards themselves are, you know, it's alright, the quality, you know, it's nothing fancy, and the art is like sort of, it could have been a lot better, but I mean, I really like the concept of this deck, and it is beautiful in its own way, you know. I'm not knocking it, it's just not my tip, you know. I like hand-drawn art for tarot and for these types of cards, but, you know, I mean, I do applaud the idea here. So this is Saint Anthony, and this is the patron saint of lost items. Saint Barbara. Saint Christopher is the patron saint of travelers. A lot of times you'll see Saint Christopher medals in cars and things like that. Saint Expedite, I believe he was a Roman convert. Everyone knows Saint Francis. He's the patron saint of animals. Joan of Arc. Saint Joseph, the other Joseph, from the New Testament, the father of Jesus. Very handsome Saint Joseph. Saint Josephine. Saint Jude. He's the patron saint of lost causes. Saint Lucy. So this is an oracle. Saint Martha. Saint Martin Caballero. I don't really know much about him. Saint Mary. And Saint Paul, who is basically like the founder of Catholicism. He was a Christian persecutor, and then he was struck by lightning on the road to Damascus in Syria, and he was a convert. He went blind for like 3 days or something. This is Santa Muerte, which is like, you know, Saint Death or Holy Death. And there's a El Dia del Santa Muerte in Mexico. Saint Sebastian. And Saint Teresa, just the little flower of Jesus. There's a couple Saint Teresas actually. Is Saint Valentine, which everybody knows, Valentine's Day. And then you have Aristotle. So this is the mystic part, you know, saints and mystic. Carl Jung, looks nothing like Carl Jung, but we'll take it. Confucius, wisdom. I think it's funny that they just kind of put random people in there because it is photography. They could have just used a picture of Jung, for God's sake. I mean, it's alright. I like the concept of it. Edgar Cayce. But it looks like they kind of use like models from like The Gap or something. I don't know. Florence Scovel Shinn. Harry Houdini. Helena Blavatsky. Isaac Newton. King Solomon. Da Vinci. Maria Laveau from New Orleans. Maya Deren. Nostradamus. Plato. Socrates, and William Blake. So, you know, it's a cool kind of different deck. I did like it. The art is like okay, you know, it could have been a little bit better. I don't like that the images don't match the people. Like, for instance, that's not Carl Jung, but, you know, can't have everything. And the book is interesting too, you know, so it is an oracle, and I couldn't resist it. I had to get it. So anyway, I hope that was helpful for you. And again, you know, if you're interested in the Raziel Tarot, let me know. Leave your comments below, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.